So this is a very unique offering at Mii Amo, and people often travel here just for this particular treatment. Can you talk to me about what it is that makes this such a special treatment and how it works for people?
I mean, one thing is, of course, the canyon and the whole place is healing by itself, so it's not just the session. But this is a increasingly more important issue in our world, and everybody suffers from it. So people are willing to do anything almost to have an improvement because they feel bad if they don't sleep. It's a vicious cycle.
And what are often the issues that people have around their sleep?
It's basically two things, either having trouble falling asleep or waking up in the middle of the night and having trouble getting back to sleep.
Okay, and so how do you teach people to approach both of those things for better sleep habits?
I mean, they're individual, so I would approach each one differently. Like the one with falling asleep has a lot to do with overstimulation, over-arousal of the nervous system, right? And it's really connected to that idea of we should be productive all the time. We cannot stop. We have to go, 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 go. And so very often people, even after dinner, they check their emails or they work a little bit or they watch an intense TV show, and all that keeps stimulating them. And then they go to bed and they hope to fall asleep and their mind is just racing. But often people want a quick fix, right? Something that, can you just tell me that one little thing? And it's not that simple. It needs a lot of lifestyle changes, right?
And what are some of the most common lifestyle changes that people can make?
Well, there's two things that we always talk about. One is a cool down period, and one is a sleep hygiene. So the cool down ritual is kind of like find your way to calm your nervous system, activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So like at least 2 hours before sleep, what can you do that makes you more calm? Like old ideas is also we exercise at night because we release stress, but then we get stimulated again, right? So anything that is calming, like a hot bath, meditation, some stretches, calming music, a funny TV show, a book that is not stimulating, all of that is just calming.
And are some of these things really social messages that we have unfortunately taken in around sleep, or cultural messages that we've gotten wrong about whether or not sleep is important?
Yes, absolutely. You know, it used to be very much the case that you don't need sleep. You know, the more high achiever you are, the less sleep you will need, kind of. And it's just not true. Like as much as exercise and healthy nutrition are important, sleep is equally as important for longevity and health.
Yeah, I've become quite obsessed with getting good sleep, and I think one of the other misconceptions is people not understanding that if you give yourself the time to sleep properly, you will actually be more productive than if you burn the midnight oil and stay up. So are there any specific techniques or practical skills that you often teach people in terms of improving their sleep?
Yes, one very simple one is, for example, putting your hand at your brainstem and on your forehead. And when I sit like this, it doesn't work so well, but if you lie back and you're just lying on your bed and you're doing this, it calms the nervous system immediately.
And why is that?
It brings the energy down into the body because, you know, our energy is all in the brain, right? Most of the day, and then at night we're stuck with that. So we want to bring that energy down.
Interesting. Yeah. In some ways, people are waking up to how important it is to sleep well.
Exactly. That's a really good point. Okay. Welcome to this live edition of our presentation. My name is Ashiko. I am part of the mindfulness team at Mii Amo. And I do many different sessions, like energy intelligence, harmony, orasoma, Thai reflexology, Reiki, meditations, readings of the moment, and releasing stress, compassionate communication, and sacred sleep also. And today I'm going to talk about sacred sleep. And just want to share a little bit my personal journey with that, because I was like the best sleeper ever. Hate to say it now, because when I was younger, I could just sleep anywhere, any vehicle, any place, loud noise, an airport, wherever. It was no problem. And then menopause hit, and everything changed. As soon as I got into menopause, I was way more sensitive. And for example, the first symptom was I couldn't sleep with any light anymore, so I always needed a blindfold. And then also I got more and more like difficulty falling asleep when I was nervous or when I was frustrated from the day. So everything I experimented with and the research I've done for myself comes into this session. And today I want to, and we already talked a little bit why this session is becoming increasingly popular at Mii Amo, but also on the internet, even from 5 years ago to now, you see a huge amount of more tips and practices of what to do when you can't sleep. And to me, the biggest reason for that is just lifestyle. The collective pressure, stress, all of the connectivity, we're always on the phone, we always have to respond right away. All of that productivity issues changed things a lot. So like 50 years ago even, or 100 years ago, when most people were farmers or worked with their bodies and their hands, they were just up by sunset, they worked through the day really hard. At night when the sun went down, they would go to sleep, and they would sleep really well because their bodies were tired. Their brain didn't have like 5,000 other things to think about. So today I also want to talk a little bit about the 4 different categories of sleep issues. And that's why it's so important to ask all these questions at the beginning of a session. Because, you can go on the internet and find the Fitbit and the Oura Ring and all kinds of suggestions, but does it really work for you specifically? So I always look at these 4 categories. The first is the collective stress. Just what everybody basically is going through. And that's relatively easy to work with. Then usually it needs a lifestyle change. Something that we have to figure out, why is it exactly, what can you do? Why is it that you're not releasing the stress maybe? And what can we do? The second thing is events, personal events that make the stress higher. For example, divorce, trauma, loss, grief, even stress at work, anything that stimulates us to a level where we're frustrated, where it's harder to calm down. Also where our mind gets very engaged. So with this category, the good news is it's temporary. It's usually something we go through, and after a certain period of time, it gets a little easier at least. And again, that requires like a plan. What can I do to make it easier? So the goal of this session is really to look that the person can walk out of the session with a plan in their hand, with a paper that says, this I can do. I want to try this. There's other things, but let's see what's best for me. And then we have two more categories just to make that clear. One is kind of a medical hormonal category, like sleep apnea, menopause, hormonal issues. If they're clearly there, they need to be looked at by a doctor and then go from there. And the other thing is chronic insomnia. If somebody has chronic insomnia, a lot of the time it's from generations back. So it's related to some trauma in some way. So we're often finding out what can we do, and the solution is often seeing a therapist and really go deeper. We can do that at Mii Amo, or you can do it at home. So to wrap this up, I just want to give you one little tip that you can try out at home. And this is when you lie in bed, instead of thinking about the next day and what went wrong today, try to think about a childhood memory. A happy place in childhood when you were maybe 5 years old or so. And just go back, because that takes, again, the energy from the frontal lobe in the brain to the brainstem, to the back of the brain, which is the same place that sleep happens in.